My name is Karine Dilanian. I'm a member of the organizing committee and coordinator of the International Academic Conference on the Historical Skies, Harmonies Between Heaven and Earth. The conference will be held on October 21st, 23rd, 2022 in Samarkand, Uzbekistan, one of the oldest cities in the world, famous for its architectural monuments and scientific achievements of astronomers and mathematicians. This conference is organized by the Sophia Center for the Study of Astronomy and Astrology and Culture, University of Wales, Trinity St. David, and Institute for the Study of Astronomy and History, Philosophy and Culture. Today we welcome Dr. Nick Campion, member of the organizing committee and speaker of the conference. And I would like to ask you to say just a few words about a history and an idea of this conference.
Well, the conference arises out of the work of the Sophia Center at the University of Wales, Trinity St. David over the last 21 years. And before that, about 30 years worth of work on the history of astrology. And back in the early and mid 80s, there was a little group of historians in England who began to look at the history of astrology on its own terms. So trying to understand the topic of astrology rather than treating it as, for example, a sort of failed kind of science, as previous historians had often done. And so we see astrology in all its many forms as a really important part of many cultures. And so, as we're not scientists, we don't seek to assess its validity, but as historians, anthropologists, sociologists, we seek to understand its role and function in society from ancient times to the present. Okay,
so the history of astrology and its place in culture and in science is the focus of your research interest, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I have a particular interest in modern astrology and understanding the appeal, the role, the function of astrology, particularly in the modern West. But given that astrology emerged over thousands of years across many cultures, I tried to take a really eclectic view and try and take as broad a perspective as possible. But one thing I try and look at is what astrologers actually did. So the evidence that might arise out of the interpretive texts of astrologers or the horoscopes that they cast.
So what is the topic that you'll present at the conference?
I'm going to look at an aspect of medieval astrology, a very particular aspect, which is the use of horoscopes to identify quite a narrow future. So there's two horoscopes for English kings, which asked about the future of the reign of the king. And then there are horoscopes cast by the 13th, 14th century astrologer from Italy, Guido Bonatti, on the besiegement of castles. So what we have with astrology is almost like a meta-narrative, a grand narrative, which talks about the place of humanity within the huge scheme of the cosmos, the entirety of creation. And so what I'm looking at is when you get a very narrow focus of this. So when this comes down to, say, the precise moment that is right to lay siege to a castle, which is what people were always doing in medieval Italy. And I'm interested in looking also at how not only the astrologers work, but how such ideas could be contained within theories of the universe. For example, Claudius Ptolemy's theory of the harmonic or harmonious universe. And so one moves right from the general down to the very particular.
Yes. As far as I remember, Niccolo Machiavelli, in his book, The Prince, he was saying about astrology that it is not the subject for study because fortune is in the hand of a brave person. From the other side, in his letters, we can find his queries to the astrologer to find a particular time to attack a castle, to enter the castle. So it's just what you are saying, just in general terms. So the fortune is in the hands of a man, but in particular moments, so they turn to the astrologers and ask for a good or propitious time for an action.
Yeah, I think that the idea that astrology proposed some sort of planetary fate to which people are subject is a misreading of what was intended. And it's a misreading you find in all critiques of astrology, for example, as you just said, in Machiavelli. But it seems to me that the astrological universe, as you know, for example, laid out by Claudius, Ptolemy, and other Hellenistic astrologers, is one in which everything plays its part. And so a modern way of looking at that would be to say that everything has agency. I mean, in modern anthropological theory, some anthropologists look at what's called rhizome theory, where everything is absolutely interconnected and all parts act on each other. Sociologists have something called actor network theory. Other anthropologists broaden that into the idea that everybody is acting, everything is acting. So everything has agency. So for example, if you're a medical astrologer, you are the astrologer devising a remedy. You have an action. The remedy then has its own action, the herb, whatever. The person taking the remedy takes it, they're acting. And so there's a complete chain of actions. And so the idea of there being a fate to which human beings are subject or can completely escape, I think is a misreading. So Bonatti would advise on the right time to attack a castle. But of course, the people have to attack it. And Bonatti looked at examples of horoscopes where the time to attack a castle was supposedly fortuitous, but the attempt to take the castle failed because the soldiers trying to take the castle were disorganized. For example, the army was no good. And so, this reminds me of what one of the people that taught me about mundane astrology said, which is, you can choose the best horoscope you like to invade a neighboring country. It won't mean to say that you're successful. So, the astrology is not an absolute system. It's an interpretive relative system which deals with relatedness. So, all things are related to anything else. It's very common again now for modern anthropologists to say nothing exists except in relationship to everything else. So nothing exists in itself. And that's fundamentally the traditional view of the cosmos outlined by astrologers.
Okay, so I would like to ask you a question about the location of the conference. So the organizing committee prepares an intensive cultural program during the conference and a cultural tour to the ancient cities of this region, to Bukhara and Khiva. What are your expectations concerning the place for the conference, Samarkand, and cultural program and post-conference tour?
Well, of course, Samarkand is famous, a legendary stop on the Silk Road. I've been to Central Asia before. When I was 22 years old, I traveled overland to Afghanistan, which of course is just south of Uzbekistan where the conference is, but is very much part of the same sort of cultural network. And for someone like me coming from Western Europe, from the very western fringe of the great Eurasian landmass, there's a great romance to the center of this landmass. And so I come with my sort of subjective expectations of some sort of experience of that that romantic heartland of the great, the geopolitical world. But quite, specifically, I love to experience varieties of culture. I live in the southwest of England. Can travel quite a short distance and find yourself in a different cultural zone. So I find traveling through different cultures with their different customs, their varying habits, their various architectures, absolutely fascinating and mind-broadening. I'm a great fan of the idea that travel broadens the mind. So I'm really looking forward to the conference, which I understand is in a beautiful location, and I'm really looking forward to the cultural tour.
Okay, so we welcome all people to come to participate in the conference, to experience talking to speakers and to wonder to the great architecture and customs and wonderful people of Uzbekistan. Nick, thank you very much for talking to us. So see you in 2 months in Samarkand, and you are very welcome to Uzbekistan.
Karine, I'm very much looking forward to seeing you there and all my other colleagues and friends.